You have to click the button. Yep. Hi, this is BZ Rieger, and I'm joined by Jeanie. Hi.
Hello.
And it's September 24th, 2021. A big day reverberating around the multiverses and the all for all so many reasons, not just the things that are happening in a southwestern state. I'll leave it at that. and But we're not here to talk about any about that, except for maybe on the cursory. What we're here to talk about is what's now, so that we can jump into what's next, and how are things that can support you in doing that, and choosing, from each person's perspective, what is their absolute delicious part of what's now, and where's the springboard and the bouncing board and the somersaults into what's next.
And getting into that state of being can sometimes be tricky.
Yeah. Yes, given a little slice of what's happening right now,
That kind of brings to mind something that I was thinking about earlier today in regards to this state of being, and thinking about some, I've done some sales of health products and stuff, and you go to these conventions and everybody's happy to be there and fired up and excited, and they got this music playing, and everybody's in this state of being, and it's wonderful. And two things about that. One thing is when we're with others and we are in our hearts and with a purpose, it's easy to get into that state of being. But when we're isolated and having to deal with all the stuff of life, it can be a little more challenging. And for me personally, I'm aware that my power is in this moment. So I try as much as I can to be present. And when there's something in my face that's, you know, causing angst and bringing my energy down, the best thing that I found to do is to breathe, just you know and to either out loud or within myself say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me,
Yeah.
thank you. And that puts me personally into my heart space, as opposed to up here going, why are we here again, and
Right.
you know all that.
Yeah.
So
The Ho'oponopono. Yeah.
getting into that is so exactly is so key to all of this unraveling, because the more of us that can really to be okay to be in our heart space and to allow ourselves to move with what is in our hearts to move to. I've had experience where I've done that. I've like leapt and the net appeared and I dropped a job and I moved hundreds of miles away on a dime, and you know walked that path of faith, and just doing what in my heart I felt like was the highest best path to take. And then I got into being a single mom with 4 kids and having to be mom and dad and having to live from here so that I could make ends meet and take care of take care of everything. And that, and doing what you're supposed to do, what you're entrained to do, what you're raised to do, what family and religion and society say to do. This is how you're supposed to act, this is what you're supposed to be, this is the story. Everybody's got a story, you got to live that story. And the reality of it is we are creator beings who are free to think and be and do and choose, and we can do whatever we want to do. We don't have to follow a script, we don't have to follow a story, we don't have to do A B C D E because somebody says so, because society dictates, because religion dictates, because your family will frown on you if you act weird and drop your job. hundreds of miles away on a dime.
Right.
So um, my my dance that I'm doing right now is uh becoming more aware of that on a conscious moment to moment basis, and working on being aware of my worthiness, being aware of my power, being aware of my energy, and allowing myself to be moving and being and doing from my heart, and not to get caught in the trap of the system. These things that have overwhelmed me as a as a single mom, for example, because I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to take care of, my children and myself. And, there's these things that you have to do to survive in this world. And where I'm at now, I'm looking at everything thinking, well, from everything that I know, the only reason this world is still as it is because we're all cooperating with our energy and our creation to keep it so. So I'm trying to walk this fine line between being, taking appropriate action to help, you know, bring or to help, yeah, bring uh the cause of freedom, the cause of, we are free to think and be and choose and create as we want. So I'm thinking there are things that I'm changing in my personal circumstances, that things that kind of had a hold over me, things that were um, stealing my energy, things that were holding me in a place of disempowerment. And once again, allowing myself to answer that highest call, that call of my heart, that desire to do the highest best thing for myself and all. Because when I do the highest best thing for myself out of love, I am doing the highest best thing for all. And
Right.
so I'm kind of trying to move myself back into the let's, fly by the seat of my pants, but it's not the seat of my pants, it's my heart. And
Right.
I'm flying with wings. And everybody else around me may look at me going, what is that crazy woman doing now? But
Right.
I'm, over here blazing the trail for freedom and love and light, and sending out fireworks and giving everybody else permission who sees it and who feels the energy of the love and freedom to go, sweet, let's go.
Right. Well, and but you're giving yourself permission to do that too by
Yes.
doing it,
Yes.
by having the courage to step in to who you really are and by doing it. I just want to interject here for a moment because I heard a whole big chorus of some people who are out there, either directly in the energetic envelope or will hear it down the road or just out there, kind of the because there's a lot of collective heads exploding today, with what's unfolding and more so. And that is that we are where we are on the narrative that is going on. And I'm not going to mention the narrative because that way I will give YouTube any rights to sabotage anything. So we are where we are on that trajectory um, because people stood up and said, no, I'm going to do what feels right in my heart and I'm going to step forward. And we've gotten as far as we did to the cause of the big thing today ever happening or ever being revealed or ever being more accurate to say being allowed to transpire so that all of this could be unfolded in a theater way so people could wake up, right? We got that far because people were doing what was in their heart. People were going out of the bounds of what's prescribed and what's normal and that kind of thing because they were compelled. They had this innate compelling pulse of their heart that was having them do that. I mean, I've been doing it for decades, and on the one hand I could say it's made me lose everything, right? And
But
on
gains by
Well,
doing
that's
this.
exactly right. That's exactly right. So, um, if one doubts either where they are with standing in their own heart and their own knowings, or thinks, well, you have to be realistic, you can't, just be happy all the time, and well, no, I'd actually say bravo on the person for saying that, because that's something for you to look at. Is that something that you have a true knowing of, or is that something that was given to you? Whose voice is saying that, right? And where in all the prescribed doctrines and the ways that things are working are they there? And the irony to kind of looking at things like that is that if one holds it, I gotta pause.
Okay.
As soon as I figure out how to do it. No. Huh. Well, the record button went away. It's so bizarre. How
Sounded like
bizarre.
might have how bizarre, how bizarre. Great to find a song.
So what I was saying is that the irony is that if one is holding about, you can't have just the magic stuff or the fun stuff or the quote unquote, woo-woo stuff, then it's irony, because that is in large measure how this whole construct got to where it is, because there are beings who know intimately exactly how to wield with great finesse and brilliance, all of that, and all of that is really what makes up all of us. Now, whether it's good or bad is simply the way that one's heart is, and the scope and the polarity that they hold for it. But it doesn't make it any less magical and wonderful, and all of source and absolute love, right? It's just how it's held. So, anyways, from what you were saying, I think is really important to figure out what one wants in themselves. And then if you're thinking, well, I'm actually going to fly by, I'm going to fly. If you can cut off the rest of the sentence, you'd be doing good, right?
I've had
And
dreams about it.
yeah, and do that because something's calling you to do it. And so it's right for you, because you're the expert for you. Can
Right.
you imagine if everybody decided to, they've had this thought, they've had this dream, they've had this longing, and they started to act on it? If everyone today for the next 2 weeks went with all of that, the sheer gravitational force and change of trajectory, like taking a galactic sized ship and stopping and turning it, right? So it shifts its rotational force, would be enormous.
Yeah.
And the love expressed in that didn't matter what it was that they were changing to do, but the love of themselves, because there was courage and there was confidence and there was, okay, even if they didn't want to own any of those things, they were, I'm just doing it, kind of a stuff. The force of that would be dramatic. And we can all do that. Absolutely. We can also do it as part of what you started by, just breathing. We can do it by having conscious breath, where we take 2 minutes out of all the things that we have to do this and have to do this, hurry, run late, and say, nope, everything else has disappeared. And you start with that. Because most people don't even give themselves that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a clue of it when I was younger. I mean, there were things that I did, I would say innately, or because I was blessed to be raised in a loving family. And after all of my learning and searching and seeking and healing and, self-educating and everything else, I've connected the dots and I'm like, oh, so it just is as simple as this. But you know, also that what you said earlier about, you can't just be happy all the time. Some people, I mean, yes, people do say that, and
It's a pretty
like,
ridiculous thing to say, actually.
well, y- yes, yes and no. I mean, I've experienced much drama and trauma, and my experience, I found that when I when I'm experiencing it, if I can't just go to that place within and be happy, then things get worse and worse and worse. But if I own my energy, take responsibility for myself and my actions and my feelings, and, work within about what's going on out here that's so painful or terrible, then I can survive it. I can navigate it. I can transcend it. I can move beyond it. But when I look around and I get in fear and I feel powerless in that moment, it's like it's a downward spiral. If you continue to let the fear mongering affect you, to be afraid, to contract in terror, then you're gonna have one hell of a nasty ride. And I've been there. I, been there, done that. And so, yeah, it sounds crazy that you can't be happy all the time, but that's where I say, well, yeah, you can. It's an inside job. And yeah, I don't like what's going on right now. It hurts my heart to see these things in this world, but I have to live it. I have to be it. I have to process it. And the way that I personally am able to, not choose to jump off is to breathe, to own my own thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and to love and appreciate what I can love and appreciate. And the more I do that, the more I hold that energy, the more I see in my experience that there is to love and appreciate. And I think, okay, well, there's this world, it's duality, it's paradox, it's this and that, and what's going to be the future? I mean, because we've got all these beings that are choosing to be the devil or whatever, to be the angel or whatever. And we're all doing this dance, and we're all in this process of unwinding and unbinding all of you know, the seeming terror. And how are we going to do this? How are we going to navigate it? Are we going to be successful? What's it going to look like on the other side? What, we all are connected energetically. And so when we can each one be in our power in the moment, in our heart, not in fear, then I feel like that's how the spirit, universe, our inner being, whatever you want to call it, can orchestrate the dance and unwind and unbind it. But as long as we are bound up in fear and feeling powerless, you know, it could get even dirtier, darkier, and uglier. You know. So, so I don't know. There's a lot of anxious thinking that can be had about everything that's happening right now. And I find personally that when I catch myself, with the gut punch over something that I read or see, some injustice or some pain that's being caused to myself or to someone I love, I have to, stop and breathe, close my eyes, take 10 or 20, go sit in front of, go hug a tree, go sit by the river, take a walk, whatever, and, recenter and allow the love that is, in my belief, flowing to us all, but to allow that love to be here now for me, because when I'm here present and appreciating the love, that's where my power is. And I intend to bring the most love and light I can to the world, and I'm doing my best. So
Yeah, and what you're describing is, really um, it's a magic wand, a magic barometer. It's a magic. There's magic. There's light. There's power in it, and it's what's true, because you're acknowledging the frequency. So you were talking about if something is hard, right? And if you can go to your place where it's in your heart, so you're not thinking so much and you're in a more expansive state, even for a moment there, right? So those are frequency things, right? As if you have a thermometer. If you stick a thermometer and it's in ice cold water, right, it's going to drop. Right. And if you go in the warmth of your heart and expanding of your consciousness, even while you're still in the situation that was causing, the iciness, right? The freezing up of that sort of thing, right? You've changed that, and you actually can raise the temperature, raise the vibration, to use it as the metaphor of changing that. And so we do change everything. And it's our choice that needs to be conscious that can direct where that is. Now you can be in situations and do small incremental changes in the raising, because there may be such pull, right? Such draw down of the vibration, or another way to look at it is such constriction of the vastness that you are, pressure and constriction in whatever situation you're in, that makes it, that an incremental change is actually a big change given those constriction constraints. Does that make sense? And so if you keep going with that, then you're moving it forward and you gain momentum, you're gaining velocity, you're gaining vibrational raising velocity by doing that. But no one can do it for us.
Right.
Someone can share how they did something similar, or they can, share some information or conversation or, meditation, whatever it is. But we have to want to take part in it ourselves, and and let us be present with whatever it is. It could be reading something that makes you feel good, or drawing, or going on a walk, or doing a sport, or whatever. So that's really part of the what's now, right now, and how you can jump into what's next. So right now you could be excited, you could be feeling great, and you could be thinking about where you want to jump into, that you can see through all of this unwinding and unbinding kind of miasma that's being created, and you haven't seen nothing yet, because it's about to come on big time, and the layers and the breadth and depth of the truth that be revealed will really be gobsmacking, but on all levels. So you can choose through that, you can see that and go, great, because this is great, it's coming down. Yes, it's going to be hard to navigate, a little challenging, especially more so for some others than some who are expecting, this to come down. And so you may already have an idea of what is next. So in all the what's now, depending on how you look at your in one direction or another, you can look at it now. It's not la la la, right? It's not pushing it away, because that's another frequency thing. If you're resisting it, you're pushing it away, it's gonna like a like a rubber band snap back, right? So but it's in the now. So by looking in it in a neutral way, to holding neutrality, to say, I see what's going on there, and I'm grateful for seeing what's going on there, because I can see, it's bringing clarity to the situation. It's for me, if I'm using myself in the example, it's also being resolve to make sure that I do my part fully, that in any places that I'm playing in embodiment or non-embodiment, it won't ever happen again. Right? So that's, now I've changed that one particular thing to a neutral stance around it, an observing stance around it, doing whatever I can in my part, in my role in this now moment, to affect that unfolding in an even further way. But it's not my whole now. So then I go back to center, and I'm feeling into what is my whole now. What is the most highest focus that I can have for myself that gives me heart expansion? That, and for me, part of the heart expansion that I get is to be of service, to be having fun myself, to be in a way that feels good, but also to be of service. So where can I then focus of all my now, where can I focus on that, and look forward to bringing the next step and stages for me to jump into what's next. And what that is in a nutshell is intentional creation, right? It's being conscious and figuring out what. So you can look at a whole array, and everybody's going to have a big array of stuff to look at in this now moment, and everyone that came speeding down the road right now. And so these tools of being conscious and being in the moment, and not, going, I'm not looking at, yes, the now is the only place we have power, but I'm not looking over there, right? That isn't a creator being way. That's not a higher consciousness, full expanded heart way, because there is no shrinking from any of those things. You don't have to get head up about it, but just acknowledge it, observe it, and hold it in neutrality. And that lets you stay right in the now moment. And I think that for people who have a concept of that, and have lots of people have a good practice of that, this will be now a place for all those beings, there's millions of them, that can help others do that who don't have that. Because right these moments, that's going to be a good thing to be helping people with. And you can do it simply with a smile. You can do it simply with, exuding just a calmness, exuding that neutrality, and saying, yes, that happened. And, yes, we need to now move on from that so that it can be sorted out. And then, and it's never, things put in place so it doesn't happen again, whatever that is. And more forward. And then go right back to the focusing on what's next. And the beauty of that is that now it makes it a little sweeter, because now you're really savoring thinking, well, what is next? Right? Given where I am, given what I know, given what I've experienced, given what I've already walked through, you talked about some of that, you already walked through. And I have this amazing space and power now in this now moment, as I'm watching everything unfold and being part of all that, to really give a heart-centered, expansive feeling process, creation process, really a playful, okay, I want to put a little of this, a little of this. I'm not so keen on that, so I won't have that in, but a little of this, right? More of this, maybe there's some collaboration here. And we are doing ourselves like as if we're doing a coloring, or a painting, or creating a song, or something like that. Metaphorically speaking, we're adding all, cooking, cosmic cookie bowl, right? Making the recipe of all these different things that we want in, from a really beautiful, heart-centered, light-hearted, but fully conscious, so informed. So knowing that you don't understand. Yep, I do. I do and do about that, and I do about that, and I do about that. And so some things I have in my creation that I'm making will know that that has been so, and I will do things to make sure that the frequencies are no longer a match to that being so ever again. Right? So that's not it's not a pushing away, it's aligning how you want the frequencies.
So when you were saying that, it was bringing to mind, I know you're familiar with Abraham Hicks, and um, they don't talk so much in terms of frequency, but they, the vortex, and how when we experience something that we know that we're not liking or appreciating, our inner being immediately knows what we would appreciate, and that energy is instantly, it's created.
Right.
So our being is holding that creation, that inner knowing of what we would prefer after going through something that we are not appreciating. And so the way that I'm trying to consciously bring that into my own experience is with the awareness of my vibrational, you know, set point in each moment, and trying to be in a place of appreciation and love for whatever I can find to love and appreciate in the moment, even though there are other things still happening around me that aren't so easy to appreciate.
Right. Right. And in that neutrality, what the nice thing, because what Abraham also is talking about is, you focus on one thing, right? And then you're playing with that in your vortex. And if you can hold that, then that adds more creational zip to it, right? A little bit more zoom, a little more chutzpah to that. And if you can do that in that same direction, that same feeling, that same vortex, that same frequency, again, and maybe add a little bit more and a little bit more, so it's all going in this direction, then it's, your source, your soul is holding that, and more is going, so it's kind of the weight on that scale, right? The enlivening of the thing in the pre-matter template is building and building and building. So when you see something, that you're really not liking, given, you can change not liking to all manner of words that are in the kind of the more constricted, don't like, negative sort of way, whatever. But instead of going into, that whole just jumping both feet in with that, you just stay in neutrality. It doesn't mean you condone it. It doesn't mean that you think it's great. You're just not going to give it energy, because that you're that powerful. That by looking at that and getting all head up about it in a way that's negative, you're actually creating more of it. You're inviting more things, not only for your own self, because what's a match to that, but actually part of your role, which is huge, as part of the collective. You just added more of that in. So if it was going to take 20 days to get this all wrapped up, just your part, because you're so strong, maybe it's, another 2 hours on top of the 20 days, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And so the neutrality is, again, I think people, sometimes they kind of, it's not maybe mixing up, but it's not quite understanding the wonderful gift that neutrality has. You can look at something and be in a neutral stance about it. And if someone said, well, you're neutral about it, does that mean you're good? No, I wouldn't choose that at all. But this is the strongest point I have to make sure that I personally don't create anything like that. And that I don't add my collective weight to the collective to create more of that, by having neutrality to it. And by choosing what I do want, which is an anathema to that, then I'm actually preparing for myself and all others, because I'm putting it into the field, into the whole um, creational force of all of the collective and making templates for it, that the whole template, the whole all of existence doesn't have a match to that. So someone said, well, you're how come you're not crazy about that? You're this is because I'm not liking that at all. And so if I stay in neutrality, I can actually do my part to vanquish it.
That term that's coming to my mind when you say neutrality, for some other people might relate to this term better, is non-judgment. you know Neutrality is a good word, I love that word, but I was also thinking, non-judgment, like not attaching and not categorizing it, not participating it in duality, saying this is right, wrong, good, bad,
Right.
but just being with it, and choosing your vibrational point of attraction.
I like that. I remember ages ago when I was head up about something, and someone said we have to look at non-judgment. I said, "Oh, I'll judge it all right." Let me give you all the reasons why I'm judging that not to be. So you're absolutely right. For me, I remember that thing, and I'm thinking, well, okay, that's obviously not helping BC, so we'll have to reframe that. And that's why, so neutrality for me is just, if I'm neutral, if I'm not zooming in one direction or the other, I'm not putting the gas down, right, in one direction or the other, I'm not, right, I'm just holding it and then recommitting to what I do want to put the gas down on, which is more love and more awareness and more openness and more shifting myself, cleaning up, clearing up, shifting myself, and then, um, you know, transmitting that out so that there's more of that in the field, which has moved the whole trajectory of all a smidge from whatever this was. So now whatever this was could still be there, but it's lost some of its power. Because, right? Because if everything is moved this way a little bit, it may be just a small move. This doesn't have the same, it's not hitting things in the same way. So it's not being able to gather the same centrifugal force of having that expansive force to it. And the reason I think that's so important for people to play with is that each being is, yes, that important and that powerful, you know. So
Yeah.
you could look at it if you were feeling small or feeling not quite sure about that. Well, you think you're so big you can do that. Yeah, and you are too, and each one is. And that's why it's so important that when you're as you talked about, when you're in something that's hard, that you can do whatever you can to come to the place of more centeredness and more open. It may be, like under a rock being pummeled, feeling like shit, but it's better than a step we were a minute ago, which was, under 20 rocks, feeling like that, right? So it's changing your vibration. And so when part of what you were saying, you were talking about, well, sometimes it may be hard to look around at what's going on. So what are some of the things that when you're staying in non-judgment of the other things going around, that you're then pulling out in for this now moment to look at, because you're wanting to play with it in a way that will let you jump to what's next in your desired focus.
Hmm. Well, what's coming to mind is just doing my best to stay heart-centered regardless of what's happening around me. And, I people ask me, where do you see yourself in 6 months, or, what do you see going forward? And for me, that's always been a difficult thing, because I'm aware of how things are interplaying with another, and how things cannot constantly change, and how you can have a thought, idea, or expectation, and it doesn't turn out anything like you expected. So um so i i guess I take from what I experience and have experienced, and know that the flip side is true, that I can have peace and love and joy and freedom in my experience. And it doesn't have to be all about um everything that's hard and painful. um and do my best to be present with the other people in my experience, and to share my heart, myself, to be kind, and to be loving, and to be appreciative, and to share my my positive perspective to something that they're sharing, that's difficult and seemingly hopeless. And um so just trying to share energetically, to share verbally, and um to bring a positive perspective towards whatever it is that's being looked at, and you know and judged.
Mhm.
So I don't think I may have probably fully answered your question, but
Well, no, on part of the what's now you did. So another part of your, is there something, let me maybe reframe it a little bit. So is there something that you've been playing with that you're wanting to magnetize to you and materialize in the what's next, whether, and I'll just leave it then, the what's next. And what are some of the ways you could give voice to what that is or not, doesn't matter, but what are some of the ways that you then um put out, if you're, say that's this magnificent canvas that you're creating, right? Because it's your life, so you're creating it. So maybe you just put one brush stroke on it, today, and then another day you're, so what are kind of some of the things that you're doing for that, because that changes everything else as well.
okay. Well, some brush strokes are um getting involved in a community, and it was something that I connected with online, but have actually met in person with some folks, just sharing, like um vision, like desire to um to maintain our freedoms and whatnot. And even, well, I don't want to talk about specifics as far as the whole arena goes, but just even though I've had a knowing that it's been controlled for a long time, just making steps to um, to give voice to things where I haven't in the past, just because I feel like it's time that it needs to
Right.
happen. And I don't know if it will matter in a way that I'd like to see it matter, but it matters to me that I'm giving my voice.
Right.
And so, and then as far as the creative aspect goes, I have I haven't been doing writing like I was before. I That's something that I will get I will allow myself to expand in here shortly. Um, and there are some things that I'd like to see personally that I probably don't want to share with the whole world right now, but
That's fine.
um, I would like to see and experience more community, more connectedness, which is something that this whole BS is represent because they know how
Right.
powerful it is.
Right.
So, I know, I see firsthand how people respond when you give them a hug anyway, or that smile, or, an encouraging word. And that's vitally important. So I personally um am doing my best to move towards a more community connected life going forward, as opposed to the separated, disjointed, no face to face stuff
Right.
that is
Right.
trying to be put out there.
Yeah. Social distancing and all that kind
Right? That
of.
ugly SQ word.
Right.
And I personally know that divine health is our birthright, and we have magnificent bodies, and our immune systems are stellar. And it's just shocking that nothing has been mentioned about immune systems over the
Right.
last couple of years. And there's been such a lie perpetrated about us humans, that we're so weak and small and frail and fragile. It's bullshit. Sorry for
It
the
is.
S word,
But
but
no,
we're
it is.
powerful. We have the ability to self heal. People call it miracles, but that's how we're designed. And so when we give ourselves the best we can give ourselves, rest and clean water and good natural food and hugs and kisses and sex and sleep and all those, and pets and trees, it's wonderful what we're capable of. And that's what I want to see. I want to see everyone and everything thriving. I want to see the earth thrive. I want to see the people thrive. I want to see,
And
people laughing and dancing and hugging and,
and how does that start?
joy in the
How
streets.
how do you personally start seeing that and doing that?
Well,
By doing that with yourself.
right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the hug for yourself and the, time for a nice little meal or a walk or whatever. So not only for
Yes.
you personally, but each you,
Yes.
right? So I'm sitting there going, yep, this and that, and it's interesting. At some point very soon, I'll be revealing a lot of this, but since 1st of January of this year, I've basically changed my life in so many ways, 180, and I've only gotten started, and that's all leading to all the other big changes. But in that, and I used to spend um, be dedicated to doing things for myself and giving myself, doing a lot for other people and working hard and all that kind of stuff. But when I made a commitment to make the changes and to shift things, um, there were a lot of moments or a lot of aspects within my life that the recommitment to that was actually showing me, bravo, great job, keep doing it. But it was also showing me that there was an awful lot where I had not been doing that to the extent already that I thought I was. In other words, I thought I was a certain place, but there's always room for improvement, right? And so I was doing good, better than a lot of people I know, right? As far as being loving to myself and all that kind of stuff. But when I made these radical changes, like I said, in pretty much most facets, and the all parts of the facets will come into the last full circle here, which is what I'll start to talk about soon. Um, but it made it very clear that I wasn't going as as open to myself or as open to all that as I thought I was. So bravo, going in the right direction. And I think I bring that up because um, it isn't until we commit to ourselves and get really trusting in ourselves, to do it intentionally, couple hundred times every day, sometimes, if that couple thousand times a day, if that's what it takes, that we can then see. But the reason, again, that I bring it up is because in doing that, it changes everything else. It changes how much more I have to give to someone else, or just in being me and making those changes just in myself, it affects others in other people, other systems, other sectors, all those kinds of things in a very positive, expansive way without me, intentionally saying I'm going to do something over here. So the very act of doing that for myself has beautiful ripples out around for so much other things.
That's a beautiful way of looking at that. And yes, as you say that, I think, okay, I definitely could do more. I've let the busyness of life of, being a single mom kind of wreck me to a degree. And I definitely could be better at taking care of me.
Right.
And I can see where doing that would definitely make a more positive ripple in my, yeah, I, I
Yeah.
agree. Thank you.
So you're doing stuff for you and you're affecting all, and it's not taking more effort because, well, it is because you've got to commit to yourself first. And that, unfortunately, because it's the way of the whole construct, the false construct, is to put each being to put themselves last, you know. So that does take a little effort, but it's a wonderful thing, and it's fascinating because everything, there are many moments during the day where I go, okay, wow, you when you're changing a lot of things, you think, yeah, it's not that big a change. But there are moments where I think, well, yeah, you really did change everything there, sort of thing. And because I can see it in myself, I can see it in my family, which is, mostly fur family right here, and how they relate. But I can see it in the community where I work in. I can see it in other places where I'm going, even if I don't know the people very well, right? It's just more of how you doing if you're in there in a store in a community thing that you're doing, um, because you're different. So your vibration is different. So how you show up and how you can give out and what you're transmitting has gone up, several notches in an octave. And I was always very intentional about how I was carrying my energy and going out to different places and being, expansive and being intentional. And that was all good, but so that's what I'm talking about. I can see the difference that I thought that I was doing pretty good at that beforehand, but with all these a tripling down. Okay, I don't know the right words for, fives and six and sevensing down on that commitment to myself. It's made, this beautiful flow that's shifted and reflecting back,
Very
again,
beautiful.
to give me more clarity on just that is making changes. So I want to be of service. Well, that right there is being of service.
Beautiful.
You know?
Beautiful. Yeah. I, as you were saying that, I was remembering the day that I went to the lake and had interactions. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can see it. I know what
Yeah,
you're talking about. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
It's true.
yeah. And by you sharing that on that particular moment of the day, because that was a hard day at work, and you just happened to knock on my text thing, and you were taking this walk. So again, it's really important that everybody play with and take it to heart and bring it to heart that when they're doing just about anything, that where the consciousness is expanding and the heart is opening and there really is a centering within yourself, that's a wonderful gift for yourself, but it has dramatic ripples, most of which you'll never even know about, but they're there nonetheless, that go out. And so again, as we've kind of had this thought a couple times so far in the conversation, watch what happens, and it's going to happen when everybody is starting to do that. And right
Yeah.
now we're in the shell cracking chaotic part for a lot of beings, but in that cracking will come out these magnificent beings who were always there. They just were, encased in, whether consciously or unconsciously, these hardened shells. And when that comes out, it really is, it's a great awakening. It's this burgeoning and enlivening of each being.
And
It's,
oh, what fun that's going to be when that
yeah,
reaches critical mass.
yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
feel like
we already are rocketing to that point, and today, on this
I
date,
feel like it too. Yeah.
we've
Yes.
made big rocket strides.
Yes. Yes. I think so. I mean, um, I try not to, delve into the intel and info all that too much. I mean, I try and balance and, you know, feed myself some positive information as well. But it's very exciting to see these different individuals speaking their mind about what's happening and making a stand and saying this is not right. And I know that's not neutral, but um just to make their voices known and not just sit and suffer in silence.
Right.
um there was one that I listened to last night. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember his name. It was a pilot that was it was on Charlie Ward's
Oh,
TV.
A Qantas airline pilot. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And it just was, it just did my heart good to hear him share his heart
Right.
and to give his perspective and to think there's so many people, so many, and the good, bad, what, I personally feel like at the core, energetically, we're all connected. So,
Right.
say good or bad is, but just to see people who have been, like you say, have the hard shell and are going through rote motion their existence, um to say, that's to know more.
Right.
This is right. I I stand for freedom, I stand for community, I stand for family, I stand for, so
Yeah. And that again is reaching, that point within you, each you, where the shearing force of either hiding from the truth of who you are or ignoring, not hiding, you see it but you're ignoring it, or you're just trying to get along, right? And the shearing force on that has become too much, and the things that could be construed as consequences to standing in that are irrelevant, because the consequence of that shearing force of you upon you, right? Your heart, your knowing the truth of the being that you are, it has made it incredibly apparent that there actually is no other consequence, um, and that you cannot hide from the truth of who you are anymore, and so you start to speak it. And I mean, it'll come out in different ways for different people, right? But that's what that pilot was doing, you know. And he was saying it in his, in his pilot jargon and from his frame and all that kind of stuff. And he said it beautifully, right? But you could get people that would be using different ways to describe the same thing, and what they're doing is they're shell cracked, right? And they're thinking, and he, even if he has quote unquote consequences, right, from making that heartfelt declaration, what he's gained from removing that shearing force, and as a pilot he knows really well what the shearing force, right, will do on the vessel that he's flying in. So by doing that, he's removed all that sharing force. The other things are really just inconsequential, just a little bit of air here and there, because he's holed himself, right? He's come into alignment, and he's come into a holding of who he is, and can step forward. And that not only is changing everything for his life, but it's changing, it's just that he turned on the video and he had a short conversation. But look at the change that made in you, the touch, the resonance, right? And has it's going around for all men to be very different resonance, very different change, very in everybody. But nonetheless, right? So that's what I'm talking about. It's a gift he gave himself. No, I'm going to do this, right? And he did it, and he did it for him, and it would change a big thing within him. But look at the gift he gave to the all. And we're talking about he moved the thing, he moved all of us, the whole awakening, he moved it. And everyone else who played and participated and was part of his energetic envelope, and their reaction, uh-oh, right? Right? I mean, huge moves. So every being is essential to what is going on. And it will look like and feel like and show up like in different ways. But when you show up for yourself, you're changing everything. And in the most spectacular ways. And in ways that you won't have any idea how spectacular they are. But it doesn't matter, because they just are. Right? And it lifts you up, which is raising it, because we're individual, singularity, and we're all one. So we can't help but do that.
Well, I at times had to give myself permission to love myself and to be a certain way, because you're raised to like self-sacrifice. And so I feel a lot of times like I'm preaching to the choir when I have these conversations, because I feel like people who, resonate with what we're saying are the ones that are hearing it. But I'm just going to put it out there and say, in addition to giving myself permission to love myself and love all, I give you all permission to love
Right?
yourself and love all, because
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah. It's really important. It's really important.
And very
And
powerful.
yes, and I think that is an absolutely fantabulous place to say, I love you. And this has been a great conversation. And I love everybody who's joined us. And go forth. And what can you do, in your heart, to see where you are now, and where do you want to focus for jumping off into what's next? And just hold the other stuff in non-judgment or neutrality, or in just an observing, and what can you do to help move that along, awaken, and then go back to your focus of what that new thing is, that clarity for you. um, it may just be something wild and crazy, like loving yourself more and giving that gift to all others while you're doing a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, have a good night, everybody. See you later.